What's good, y'all, man? We're back on another ranking video. And today I'm going to be ranking Bleach's arcs. So, I had a little bit of an issue finding, like, a good tier list for the arcs because a lot of the lists that I have found were they were trying to break down the arcs even more than they need to be broken down. I guess just mainly just because there's more things to rack and stack against, and I get it. But for me, I wanted these were the main ones I was looking for as far as breaking down the arcs, because even though Bleach has a lot of chapters, it does not really have a lot of arcs. The arcs are very compact with a lot of content. And that's another good thing I like about Bleach is there's just not so many different random arcs. So we're getting right off into it. Substitute Shimigami. So this is basically everything from the beginning of the series all the way up until Byakuya and Renji comes and grabs Rukia. So I would have to say the only real part of this arc that I liked was when Ichigo was going against Uryu, and then the Granos Mende, they showed up, and like I don't know, me, I just have like an infatuation with like big creatures, big spooky ominous creatures. So like when they showed up and like in their all black suit and just like super long legs, and that was the only cool scene, the only like real interesting scene of the arc for me. So all in all, I'd have to give this about a good solid C. It's not bad, it's not good, so it's just about average, I'd say. Soul Society arc. So when I did my breakdown of like my review of Bleach overall, I touched on the basis of Soul Society. It kind of feels like a video game, like an RPG. Like you kind of start at the beginning, where Ichigo storms the gate. He beats the gate guardian to get in there, but then he's met with like a higher level boss, and boom, who pushes him back and it's like, hey, you need to go the scenic route. You need to go the route to level up. And then we see him go from fighting a third lieutenant, Inikaku, and then he goes to Renji, a lieutenant. Then he goes to Kenpachi, and then we get the final climax with him with Byakuya. And granted, Kenpachi and Byakuya, they're both captains, but at the time, obviously, what we find out is that Kenpachi was putting mental blocks on his power, so that way he was no longer to the power where he needed to be. That's why, he doesn't actually train and get stronger throughout the arcs. He kind of just, mentally just becomes stronger. Mentally removes those shackles because he's running into stronger opponents. So he's getting back to where his actual peak is. But I just love the whole RPG feel of it. And then obviously there's some issues I wish I could have seen the bird attack Ichigo and actually have a second comeback to see okay, this is supposed to be 1,000 Zanbakutos. Let's see what this thing can actually do if somebody's trying to combat against it, But the big shocking reveal of Aizen was still it's still one of the greatest plot twists for anime. A lot of people did not see it coming. Some people will go back and retroactively say that they saw it coming, but it was still a huge turn of events, especially for me. So with all that being said, I'm gonna give it an S. It was an S. So now Visors. So this is where I see people are kind of split on this, and obviously this will be covering everything when Ichigo gets back to town and whatnot, gets back from the Soul Society up until they head to Wako Mundo. So this obviously will show, as the picture has Ukiura and Yami, shows when they invade, and then it also shows when Ichigo learns that there's Visors, and the Visors are the one that are Shimigami but have hollow masks. So Visors were cool as shit to me. The only issue I have with them is that we just didn't get to see enough of them. And I'll touch into that more into the Fate Katakura Town and the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. But I feel like the Visor's design was cool as shit. The thought of it was cool as shit. and the action was really good in my opinion. You have the Grimjow stuff. You have Ichigo with his internal, fighting, trying not to lose himself to the Hollow. And then obviously we get to see him actually in his inner world fighting White and learning more about himself and whatnot. So all in all, this arc, I really liked it. It's not the best, of course, but I personally enjoy it, so I have to say it's a good A. Right. So, Waco Mundo. I'll be honest, Waco Mundo was not it for me. It was not that interesting. The only saving grace for it is the Ukiyo and Ichigo fight and the Grimjow and Ichigo fight. Everything else kind of just felt like it was unnecessary. Ichigo fighting the Primera, I believe that was her name. Like the ones that used to be Iran Car, or that used to be Espada, but then when the new Espada showed up, they became the old Espada. It was like the one with the Spanish guy that Ichigo fights at the very beginning. But it's funny, he comes back later on in 1,000-Year Blood War arc. But still, I just never. And the damsel in distress that Orihime played, it just never you never really felt like not Ukiyo, that Orihime was really in trouble. Obviously, you knew she was in the heart of it, but I just didn't actually feel that actual stress that, oh, if we don't make it in time, something might happen to her. Whereas with Rukia, we knew time was coming up, she was about to get executed and whatnot. So the two fights do great, but overall, I'd have to put it at about a good C as well. Right above Substitutes and Shinigami, just because I did more than one fight, and it had somewhat. I didn't really like the environment. The environment could have did a little better. They could have did a lot better for that. Fate Katakura-ten. So obviously, this has great fights, amazing fights. The one thing I will say though is I feel like we got robbed. Now, granted, Kubo, the author of Bleach, he makes a comeback in 1,000-Year Blood War arc and kind of gives us what we should have gotten Fate Katakura-ten, but not getting to see Yamamoto fight Aizen, even for a brief second. Now, we did get the epic scene with him beating up Wonderwise with his bare hands, and that was epic too. But I feel like as the head captain, we had been we were so unclear about how actually, because we got a little glimpse of it when, he was fighting Shinsui and Ukitake after Ichigo stormed the thing and whatnot, stormed the thing to save Rukia. But we didn't actually, that's pretty much all off screen, and we just got pretty much hype ups oh, he's the strongest Shinigami in the past 1,000 years and whatnot. But I just felt like we got robbed at it. We should have seen at least a little bit of a clash between him and Aizen, and then him having to basically just sacrifice an arm. It's just But overall, I mean, the Ichigo's, or all the fights before Ichigo gets there, really good. I felt like there's a lot of anime. There's some anime only fights in there, but Ichigo, when he finally get there, you see him having they have the revelation oh, you can sense the spiritual pressure. Oh shoot, we need to do this, and then they go over to the Dangai and they just train, and then getting to see Ichigo realize that what Zangetsu wants to protect is him, it's Ichigo. So him having to make that sacrifice to say, all right, I understand what you want to protect, but I gotta do what I gotta do. So, and then obviously finally Getsuko, epic. Everybody all knows that badass form. Fucking him face palming Aizen as he's mid monologue. Great. So I'm gonna give this an S as well. It's gonna be bad. Okay, so Soul Society is gonna go down. I don't want to crowd it because this is gonna surprise you. So the Fullbringer arc to some people, a lot of people, was what made them drop the series, and they just felt like it was just not the direction that it needed to go in after all of the Aizen stuff. So a lot of people at the time thinking Bleach should have ended with Aizen just at the end right there. I don't. So I get what what Kubo was doing. He was going through the stages of basically what Ichigo is made up as his pillars for his arcs. You had Rukia for the Soul Society, or for the Shinigami. Then you had the Aizen stuff, which was the Hollow stuff. Then you had the Fullbring stuff, which could have been kind of left out, but it still played well. And then Thousand Year Blood War arc, obviously Quincy stuff. And that also symbolizes his friends as well. But I'll get into that in a different video maybe. So, but one of the things I really love about this is because we actually get to see a real like human side. We get to see like a real realistic like, yo, this is how a person would act if they had to go through what Ichigo's going through. And we see stuff like, we see Ichigo's like internally like, messed up, that he can't help people. He sometimes, I think there was one scene, it was either scrapped or it was very subtle that he either heard somebody screaming or saw, or just felt them like in danger, and he couldn't do anything to help them because it was just like he was helpless, and that really was screwing with his mental. And then obviously seeing with all the stuff that Tsukushima did to him and causing him to be like get all messed up mentally, like thinking he's losing his friends and whatnot. And then we get the heartfelt scene at the end where everybody bands together and helps him get his powers back and whatnot. Some people kind of felt like, well, what was the point of him losing his powers if he's gonna get them back? I didn't really have an issue with it by the way that he got his powers back, because it was the people that he sacrificed for made a sacrifice for him. Like, or not sacrifice, but they gave back to him. So overall, I would give it an S, but the fighting was kind of ass. So with this being a shonen, I'll put this here. But like the mental play and everything like that is really like, it's really big to me. So, and 1,000 Year Blood War arc. Some people I've seen are on the fence with it. Obviously with the anime everybody loves. I already knew they would love it with the anime. But a lot of people, and I mean a lot, are kind of conflicted on whether or not this arc is actually that great. And I think it's really good. So, but what I think a lot of people get caught up on is the sheer amount of characters that get introduced. And so sometimes people get attached to like, oh, well, what's going on with this character, or what's going on with that character, what's going on with this character, and they don't, and obviously there's so many characters, like it's not realistic to be able to like touch base and keep tabs on every single character and make every single character relevant. So sometimes I feel like that, like people just get caught up in the bias, like, oh man, the person I was rooting for, and what happened to them, or I want to know more information on this person, 'cause I thought this person was cool. So I feel like that was like really heavy. And obviously at the very end it was a rush job, but as we find out that it was due to health reasons and whatnot. So it's kind of what can you do at this point, and obviously he was also getting rushed as well by the editors, but all in all, the only thing that I would really want happen is hopefully the anime draws out the fight more in the Yuha and Ichigo and Aizen and Renji. I want them to like draw that fight out more, and I'm pretty sure they will, but I'm not sure. Who knows? Hopefully, I've seen they've added some extra stuff in the first season for that 1,000 Year Blood War arc, so I'm really hopeful that they'll do it for this later on in the next season to come. So with all that being said, I hyped it up. It's gonna be an S. So I was gonna put Fullbringer in S because I really did love it that much, but the fighting did bring it down a notch, and then I didn't want to crowd the S's too much. So yeah, so that's what we got. So if you guys have different opinions, you might agree with me or whatever, just go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know what you think. And please, that subscribe button and the like button. And I'll catch y'all later next video. Peace.